You know that moment when someone who's supposed to love you unconditionally looks you dead in the eye and tells you you're worthless? Well, my mother perfected that art for 25 years. She said I'd never amount to anything, that I was destined to be a failure just like my father. What she didn't know was that while she was busy tearing me down, I was quietly building something she could never imagine. And when success finally came knocking, I didn't call her to brag. I didn't send a card. Instead, I made sure she'd see my face every single morning when she opened her bedroom curtains. The look on her face when she realized what I'd done, priceless. You won't believe how this story ends. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. Hi everyone, I'm Shirley and this is my story about how a lifetime of emotional abuse led to the most satisfying moment of my entire life. I'm 32 years old now, and I run my own successful marketing agency, but getting here wasn't easy. For most of my life, I believed I was exactly what my mother told me I was, a disappointment, a dreamer, someone who would never make it in the real world. It all started when I was 8 years old. I remember this moment so clearly because it was probably the first time I really felt my mother's disapproval cut through me like a knife. I had spent hours at school working on this drawing. It was a picture of our family standing in front of our house, with this big rainbow in the background. I was so proud of it. The teacher had even written excellent work, Shirley at the top in red ink. I practically bounced through the front door that afternoon, clutching my masterpiece. Mom was sitting at the kitchen table with her real estate magazine spread out everywhere, calculator in one hand, pen in the other. She was always working, always stressed about money, always talking about her big deals that never seemed to happen. "Mom, look what I made," I said, holding up my drawing with both hands, grinning from ear to ear. She glanced up for maybe 2 seconds, her eyes barely registering what I was showing her. "Shirley, stop wasting time on silly pictures. You need to focus on real skills, things that will actually matter when you grow up." I felt my smile fade. "But the teacher said it was excellent work." "Your teacher is just being nice. That's what teachers do." She went back to her magazines without another word. I stood there for what felt like forever, still holding my drawing, feeling something cold settle in my stomach. I didn't understand it then, but that was the beginning of a pattern that would define our relationship for the next 2 decades. As I got older, the pattern became more obvious. Every achievement I had was diminished. Every dream I shared was shot down. When I won first place in our school's art contest in 5th grade, beating out kids from 3 grade levels above me, Mom's response was, "Don't get a big head, Shirley. One little prize doesn't mean anything in the real world." She had this way of comparing me to other kids that made me feel like I was always falling short. "Look at the Johnson's daughter, she's practical, studies math and science. You're always in your own little dream world, Shirley. That's not going to pay the bills." I started making excuses for her behavior early on. She worked hard, she was stressed about money, she just wanted me to be realistic about life. I told myself she was trying to protect me from disappointment. But deep down, those words were carving themselves into my soul. When I was 12, my dad left. I came home from school one day to find him packing his suitcase, and Mom standing in the doorway with her arms crossed, her face like stone. "Where are you going, Dad?" I asked, my voice small. He couldn't even look at me. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I can't do this anymore." After he drove away, Mom turned to me, and I'll never forget what she said. "Now look what you've done. Your father couldn't handle having a daughter who's such a disappointment. This is your fault, Shirley." I was 12 years old, and I believed her. High school was a nightmare. I was actually good at art, really good. My teachers encouraged me to apply to specialized programs, art schools, anything that would nurture my talent. But every time I brought home information about these opportunities, Mom would tear them up right in front of me. "Art school? Are you kidding me? You want to be a starving artist living in some dirty apartment? I won't waste my money on such nonsense." At my high school graduation, while other parents were taking pictures and celebrating their kids, Mom was telling anyone who would listen she barely graduated. "I don't know what she's going to do with her life. She'll probably end up like her father, a quitter." I was standing right there, in my cap and gown, and I felt invisible. I chose community college for graphic design, thinking maybe I could prove to her that art could be practical. But even then, she made me pay rent while living at home. I was working 2 jobs, one at a coffee shop in the morning, another at a retail store at night, just to afford my classes and give her money for rent. Every small setback became ammunition for her "I told you so" attitude. When I got AC on a difficult project, she'd shake her head and say, "See, I knew this art thing was a waste of time." When I struggled to find internships, she'd remind me that real careers don't require begging for unpaid work. The worst part was how she'd gaslight me about our past. When I'd bring up things she'd said or done, she'd look at me like I was crazy. "I never said that, Shirley. You're being too sensitive. I've always been supportive of you. I sacrificed everything for you after your father left." She'd use my faith against me too. We went to church every Sunday, and she'd quote scripture about honoring your mother whenever I tried to stand up for myself. "Honor thy mother, Shirley. I've given up my whole life for you. The least you can do is show some gratitude." Looking back now, I can see how she was systematically destroying my confidence, my dreams, my sense of self-worth. But at the time, I kept making excuses for her. I'd tell my friends she's just trying to prepare me for the real world. She wants me to be strong. She's been through a lot since Dad left. But everything changed during my final year of college. I was about to graduate with my associate degree and had been applying to 4-year programs and entry-level design jobs. I'd been waiting for responses for months, getting more and more discouraged as rejection letter after rejection letter seemed to pile up. Then one day I was looking for a box of old photos in Mom's room. She'd asked me to find them for her, and I found something that made my blood run cold. Hidden under her bed, in a shoebox behind some old magazines, were dozens of letters addressed to me. Acceptance letters from art programs, job interview invitations, scholarship opportunities. Some of them were months old. My hands were shaking as I opened them one by one. Full scholarships to prestigious programs, job offers from companies I dreamed of working for, opportunities that could have changed my entire life, all hidden away by the one person who was supposed to support me. I confronted her that night, holding the box of letters in my trembling hands. "How could you do this to me? These are my letters, my opportunities. You've been sabotaging my future for months." Her response still gives me chills. She looked at me with this cold, calculated expression and said, "I was protecting you from disappointment, Shirley. You're not strong enough for that world. You'll never make it out there, and when you fail, and you will fail, don't come crying to me." That was the moment I realized my own mother had been the biggest obstacle in my life. And that was the moment I decided everything was about to change. That night, after discovering those hidden letters, I made a decision that would change everything. I stopped trying to win my mother's approval and started working towards something she'd never see coming. I moved out 3 days later without telling her where I was going. I found a tiny studio apartment across town. It was barely bigger than a closet, but it was mine. I changed my phone number and only communicated with Mom through email for absolute emergencies. I was done playing her games. But Margaret Chen doesn't give up control that easily. She showed up at the coffee shop where I worked, demanding to know why I was acting like a spoiled child. When I refused to engage, she started calling my friends, my coworkers, anyone she could think of. She even went to our church and told people I was having a mental breakdown. "Shirley's going through a rebellious phase," she'd tell anyone who would listen. "She's always been unstable, just like her father. I'm worried she might hurt herself." My phone started buzzing with concerned friends and distant relatives. "Your mother is worried sick about you, Shirley. She loves you. You're being too dramatic. Family is family." I wanted to scream. Even when I was trying to escape her toxicity, she was still controlling the narrative, still making me look like the problem. But I had a plan. Instead of fighting back with words, I fought back with work. I threw myself into building something she could never take away from me. I worked 60 hours a week at a small marketing firm during the day, then freelanced for local businesses at night. I lived on ramen noodles and determination. My boss at the marketing firm, Jake Martinez, noticed my dedication. "Shirley, you're here before everyone else and you leave after everyone else. What drives you?" I couldn't tell him the whole truth, so I just said I have something to prove. Within a year, I had saved enough to upgrade my freelance setup. I was landing bigger clients, creating better work, building a reputation. But Mom somehow found out through mutual acquaintances, and that's when her sabotage went nuclear. She called 3 of my biggest clients, pretending to be concerned about my mental health. She told them I was going through a difficult time and might not be reliable for important projects. I lost 2 of those clients overnight. The old me would have confronted her, would have cried, would have asked why she was doing this. The new me just documented everything and worked harder. I diversified my client base, improved my skills, and started therapy with Dr. Rebecca Torres. Surely Dr. Torres said during one of our sessions, what you're describing isn't normal mother-daughter conflict. This is systematic emotional abuse designed to keep you dependent and small. Hearing those words from a professional was like finally getting permission to trust my own reality. The pandemic hit in 2020, and while everyone else was struggling, my digital marketing skills became more valuable than ever. I was landing remote clients across the country while Mom's real estate business was falling apart, but she still found ways to try to tear me down. The breaking point came at my grandmother's funeral. Grandma Rose had been the one person in my family who always believed in me. I'd been calling the hospital every day during her final weeks, but I was always told she didn't want visitors. At the funeral, I was standing by myself when my cousin Amy approached me. "Shirley, I'm so surprised to see you here. Your mom told us you were too busy with your little computer hobby to care about family. She said you didn't even want to visit Grandma Rose." My blood turned to ice. "What did you say?" "Your mom has been telling everyone that you're struggling financially and mentally. She showed us pictures of some terrible apartment and said that's where you're living. She said you blame the family for your problems and don't want anything to do with us." I looked around the funeral home and realized everyone was staring at me with a mixture of pity and disappointment. Mom had spent months crafting a narrative where I was the ungrateful daughter who had abandoned her dying grandmother. But here's what they didn't know: by that point, I was running a 6-figure marketing agency with 4 employees. I had just landed my biggest client yet, a Fortune 500 company that was paying me more in 1 month than Mom made in 6 months of real estate commissions. As I watched Mom work the room at the funeral, playing the role of the long-suffering mother abandoned by her selfish daughter, something clicked inside me. I was done being a victim of her story. After the funeral, I went back to my real office, not the terrible apartment she'd been showing people pictures of, and I made a decision. Mom had spent years trying to control how people saw me. It was time to show them who I really was. Within 6 months, my agency landed the contract of a lifetime. A national advertising company wanted to launch a campaign celebrating young entrepreneurs who had overcome obstacles. They were looking for faces to represent their self-made success campaign, and they wanted mine. "We'll put your story on billboards across the country," the creative director explained. "It's about people who built something meaningful despite the odds." I had complete control over where my regional billboard would be placed, and I knew exactly where I wanted it. I did my research. Mom had been house hunting, constantly complaining about wanting to move to a more prestigious neighborhood. She'd been telling everyone she was doing better than ever, but I knew she was struggling financially. She'd even been posting fake social media updates using my old childhood photos, claiming I was finally doing well thanks to my mother's guidance. The billboard went live on a Tuesday morning on Maple Street, the exact street she'd been telling people she wanted to move to. My confident, professional headshot with the tagline "Some dreams are worth fighting for." Chen, CEO, Chen Creative Solutions. I didn't call her. I didn't send a message. I just waited. The phone calls started within hours. Neighbors, old family friends, people from church, all asking Mom why she never mentioned her daughter was a successful CEO. By afternoon, my voicemail was full of frantic messages from her, ranging from rage to desperate backpedaling. "Shirley, we need to talk. I always knew you had potential. I was just trying to motivate you to be your best." I saved every message. Because after 25 years of being told I'd never make it, I had made it. And the best part? She had a front row seat to everything she tried to destroy. The morning after my billboard went live, I was sitting in my corner office, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, when my assistant knocked on my door. "Shirley, there's a woman downstairs in the lobby demanding to see you. She says she's your mother and she's not leaving until you talk to her." I'd been expecting this. I asked security to escort her up, but I made sure to record our conversation on my phone. After everything she'd put me through, I wasn't taking any chances. When she walked into my office, I almost didn't recognize her. Gone was the confident, controlling woman who had dominated my childhood. She looked smaller somehow, her perfectly styled hair disheveled, her makeup smudged like she'd been crying. She stood in my doorway, taking in the mahogany desk, the awards on the walls, the team of employees visible through the glass partition. Her eyes landed on the Forbes 30 Under 30 article framed behind my desk. "Surely," she started, her voice shaking, "I had no idea you were doing so well." I gestured to the chair across from my desk, keeping my expression neutral. Please sit down, Margaret. She flinched when I used her first name instead of calling her mom. I've been thinking about our conversation the other day, she continued, and I realized there might have been some misunderstandings over the years. Misunderstandings. That's what she was calling 25 years of systematic emotional abuse. I was scrolling through Google last night, she said, pulling out her phone with trembling hands. I found articles about your company, interviews you've done, client testimonials. Surely, you're featured in major publications. You have 15 employees. You're actually successful. The way she said actually successful, like she couldn't quite believe it, made my skin crawl. I want you to know that I always believed in you, she continued, her voice getting stronger as she slipped back into manipulation mode. Everything I did was to motivate you, to make you stronger. I was just trying to prepare you for the real world. Deep down, I always knew you had potential. I let her finish her entire speech. I wanted it all on record. When she was done, I leaned back in my chair and looked at her for a long moment. Margaret, do you remember what you told me the night I found those hidden letters? Her face paled. Surely, I was just. You said I wasn't strong enough for this world. You said I'd never make it out there. You said when I failed, I shouldn't come crying to you. My voice was calm, professional. Do you remember that? She started to speak, but I held up my hand. For 25 years, you told me I was worthless. You sabotaged my opportunities, you lied to our family about me, you tried to destroy every dream I ever had. And now that I've succeeded despite everything you did to stop me, you want to take credit for it. I'm your mother, Shirley. This success means nothing if we can't share it as a family. That's when I knew nothing had changed. She still couldn't take responsibility. She still wanted to control the narrative. You were right about one thing, Mom, I said, standing up from my desk. I did end up with nothing toxic, nothing false, nothing that was holding me back. And now I have everything I built myself. Her mask slipped completely. After everything I sacrificed for you. After I raised you alone when your father left. This is how you treat your mother. You mean after you blamed a 12-year-old child for her father leaving? After you stole my letters and sabotaged my future? After you lied to our entire family about who I am? Security knocked on my door. I had texted them during our conversation. I think this meeting is over, I said. Security will escort you out. As she stood up, her desperation became palpable. Shirley, please. I know I made mistakes, but I'm your mother. We can work through this. The difference between us, Margaret, is that I learned from my mistakes. You just make excuses for yours. Security walked her to the elevator. Through my office window, I watched her get into her car and drive away. As she turned the corner, she had to pass my billboard one more time, my face looking down at her, 40 feet tall, representing everything she said I'd never become. 6 months later, I received a Facebook message from her. I saw your wedding announcement in the paper. I'm your mother. I should have been invited. I screenshotted and added it to a folder on my computer labeled evidence. Because I know narcissists never really change, they just try new tactics. But this time, I'm ready for whatever comes next. Today, my agency employs 23 people. We've won multiple industry awards. Jake and I just bought our dream house, with a view that doesn't include any billboards, but sometimes I drive by the old one just to remember how far I've come. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's becoming so successful that your enemies become irrelevant. Mom spent years trying to make me small, but she accidentally taught me the most valuable lesson of all: the only approval that matters is your own. Every morning when I walk into my office and see my team working on projects that matter, when I see the impact we're making for our clients, when I remember that little 8-year-old girl with the rainbow drawing, I know I made it. Not despite her, but because of my own strength, my own determination, my own refusal to stay small. Some people are born into families that lift them up. The rest of us have to build our own wings. And sometimes, those wings take us higher than anyone ever imagined. That's my story, and I'm proud of every part of it, even the painful beginning, because it led me here. If you enjoyed this story of turning pain into power, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had to overcome family toxicity to build your dreams. Your story matters, and I'd love to hear it. Until next time, remember, you are stronger than anyone who tries to make you small.